Information manipulation and interference is a key concept to better understand how the information space can be weaponized to manipulate public opinions, not just through false or misleading narratives, but also through a range of tactics, techniques, and procedures that are underpinning the production, dissemination, and amplification of harmful and deceptive content. My name is Sébastien Babaud, and I work for the Sub-Saharan Africa Task Force of the European External Action Service. So if we start with Europe, we have seen repeated and systematic attempts by foreign authoritarian regimes to manipulate public opinions using sensitive or contentious topics like COVID-19 vaccines, migration, LGBTQI rights, Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine, and also national elections to sow divisions across societies, to undermine public trust in mainstream media and governments, and to attack democratic values. So in the EEAS, we have published our annual report earlier this year, actually, which looked at these patterns, highlighting notably how elections last year in Spain and Poland have been targeted using similar behaviors by foreign actors and their proxies. First, they established distribution channels and they start to inoculate divisive narratives to polarize the political debate. And that's taking place several months before the elections. Then they ramp up the manipulation a few days before the elections with sensational content to confuse the public. And then finally, after the elections, they question the credibility of the process and the value and the legitimacy of the outcome. So you see there's a systematic pattern in place to manipulate and to deceive public opinions. If we focus on Africa, there's a growing body of evidence that shows how information manipulation by foreign and domestic actors supports undemocratic developments like military coup. They fuel tensions and violence between communities. They crush civic space, affect independent media, and they fuel resentments against the so-called Western actors like the EU. So there are different terms used like misinformation, disinformation, or even fake news. And that puts the onus on the truthfulness of information. That is, whether a story is true or is it false. However, these terms, they do not capture the whole range of behaviors that are used to manipulate the information space and that are critical to understand and to take into account if we want to grasp the full nature of the problem. FIMI is characterized by a number of elements. First of all, it's non-illegal. That is, as opposed to terrorist content or hate speech that are ruled by legal frameworks, FIMI often falls in this gray zone in which content is more misleading and confusing that it is actually false or can be ruled by legal frameworks. It is also intentional and harmful, like I mentioned before. That means it is fabricated to undermine democratic values, polarize societies, weaken fragile security context. Finally, it's manipulative and coordinated. That means that it uses fabricated content like fake websites, impersonation of media outlets, AI-generated audio and visual content. And it also uses inauthentic amplification through fake accounts or bots to amplify content. And this last point is very important because the inauthentic or non-organic behavior, that's what allows us to qualify an activity as FIMI. The weaker a media ecosystem is, the easier it is for FIMI threat actors to manipulate public opinions. FIMI actors and activities will often aim to undermine the legitimacy and credibility of independent journalists, independent media outlets. And in Africa, for instance, we are also increasingly seeing journalists being attacked, jailed, or targeted by legal actions. And there is a growing realization that we need to safeguard and promote a professional, independent, viable, and trustful media sector if we want to protect our democracies. These media actors are essential to ensure that African societies can become more resilient to information manipulation. And it is important to take a holistic or a whole of society approach, whereby media actors, civil society organizations like fact checking organizations, civic tech organizations, cultural or community organizations can create more synergies to analyze and monitor information manipulation, can enhance the provision of fact based, reliable information, can raise awareness of the public. In the EEAS, we have developed a framework called the FIMI Toolbox that sets out a wide range of actions that can be undertaken to respond to FIMI. Situational awareness to better understand FIMI, regulatory frameworks to enhance safety of internet users and transparency of social media platforms, resilience building to empower local actors to engage more proactively in their respective local contexts, and diplomatic and restrictive measures to tackle interferences by foreign authoritarian regimes. And this FIMI toolbox approach once again illustrates how important it is to take a broad and whole society approach to respond effectively to challenges posed by FIMI in Europe as well as in other regions. So when I see how independent media actors, civil society actors are engaged to tackle FIMI threats globally, the knowledge, the expertise they have built, the initiatives they are taking in sometimes very sensitive context, it's really inspiring and is also one of the reasons why we are placing so much importance in promoting their critical role in responding to FIMI.